We can see you and we can see Chazan.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This week's Torah portion by Yakel Pekudei is also like a special Torah portion. It's Shabbat HaChodesh, which is the Shabbat before the Shabbat before the Shabbat before Passover, and it's really one for folk to look ahead and to focus on it. The Torah portion talks about all of the details of making of making our sanctuary, making our portable temple, the Mishkan. And it talks about how everyone volunteered to do different things and how they gave some of their most precious possessions. One of the interesting passages is it talks about the different gemstones which were used in the breastplate that the high priest had. We've taken those which originally stood for each of the 12 tribes to be translated to each of the 12 months. That's where you get the birthstones from. But what's particularly striking is how much people need to come together. This Mishkan, this temple, this portable temple, and for us today, the sanctuary, the synagogue, is really, really needed. We need community. We need to be with each other. We need to be reminded of some of the most important words that we teach. To be kind to strangers, because we're really sort of all in this together. And that's particularly true today, because if everyone else practices safety, it's better for us. That's a really good way to help other people, is to take care of yourself. I heard it said that many of the first responders are asking people, just do this for us. Now, stay home for us. And this isn't the way the world should be. It's a very strange time. It's not good for our soul to do this, but it is for right now. But don't get in the habit of it. Remember that we need people. We need to be touched. That's what we're doing right now is craziness, but we need to remember. I thought tonight, we're not going to give all different updates. I'm going to give you a Shabbat from updates. But I am going to let you know that every day at 5 o'clock, I've got a 5-minute with updates and a little Jewish insight. You can log on to that at our website. You can contact me, tbhrabbi@gmail.com. That's tbhrabbi@gmail.com. We'll be on again tomorrow, starting with singing at 8:45. There won't, because it's Shabbat, there's not going to be a 5 at 5, but I'm doing it every other day. And we have another little forum called Zoom at 2. At 2 o'clock, you can Zoom in and just talk with whoever's on. If someone has questions, you want to see people, you just want to talk with other temple members. At 2 o'clock, you can do that and maybe break off into different groups, but meet people. And at the conclusion tonight, we're going to have something like an oneg, where you can just chat with, everyone's going to be unmuted and you can chat with one another. We're trying hard to recreate that we spent so many years to build up, and it's what's talked about in our Torah portion, building up a sanctuary. It's an interesting thing about Shabbat. Wherever you are, even if you're in a stinking Russian prison, I remember reading a poem about that, it was written in the time of the refuseniks. Wherever you are, if you welcome in Shabbat, you're in the presence of royalty, and you become a sanctuary in time. And now it's time to do that. You deserve it. You worked hard this week. You deserve a Shabbat. a very difficult thing for me was to not be at some funerals this week. I really view myself as the man who shows up, and I really need to be with my family and not drive out and not take risks. I'm with my mom and her husband and my wife, it's just the four of us, and I didn't want to endanger them. But I felt really bad because, well, there were two recent deaths. John Theodore Mittig died, that's David Mittig's dad, and also Paul Schroeder. And Paul asked me if I could officiate his funeral. There's an amazing story, an amazing, amazing story about the last few weeks of his life. We've shared that story before. But I just want to, there couldn't be people at this, couldn't be very many people at the cemetery. So I'm going to read a few words dedicated to Paul and to his wife, Brenda Williams. Let's go back, way back, to the land of Israel 2,000 years ago. The wealthiest man's daughter, her name was Rachel, saw something in a simple man named Akiva. Even though he was illiterate, his hidden depth caught her eye. When they married, her father disowned them both. Life wasn't easy. She encouraged him to study, and at the age of 40, he sat in a class of children learning the Aleph Bet. He wouldn't just learn it by rote like the little kids. He would ask, why is that an Aleph? Why is that a Bet? Giving great depth to the simple instruction, well beyond what his teacher could offer him. Frustrated, Akiva walked along a creek. Seeing a smooth rock, he said, if even a rock can be shaped, so can I. When he went off to study at the academy in Jerusalem, he promised his wife, Rachel, a Yerushalayim shel Zahav, a Jerusalem of gold. Years later, he returned with hundreds of disciples. He was the head of the academy and one of the greatest scholars our people have ever known. He gave his wife a golden tiara, golden crown, and the word Yerushalayim was written on it. It was a Yerushalayim of gold. And he attributed all of his fame to her. Let's go back now to Little Falls, New Jersey. Rosalie and Joseph had 4 kids, Joe, Rosemary, Lori, and little Paul. Life wasn't easy, but such was the Schroeder family and Paul's upbringing. Paul was handy and dedicated himself to his work. He had 3 children, Crystal, Sarah, and Paul. And for them, life was not easy. At about 40 years old, Paul somehow found new strength and fortitude to overcome tremendous obstacles. Paul's family grew with grandchildren Corey, Kyla, and Adam, a loving daughter-in-law, Victoria, and even a great-grandson, Alejandro. But the unexpected treasure came when he met Brenda nearly 2 decades ago on Long Island. His hidden depth caught her eye. They talked about math and work. She's a chemist and he a machinist who fabricated small submarines like 2-person submarines. When they married, Mary and Howard, Ed and Carolyn, Helen and Jonathan welcomed him so warmly into the family. Over the years, Paul inspired many with his caring, adaptability, and resiliency. But he was just so gosh darn likable. All those he inspired, cared for, befriended, and touched are like a tiara of gold that he leaves for his wife, Brenda, and all of his family. And he truly inspired so many people. How do we make the name Paul Schroeder into a blessing? The next time we're frustrated, if we think of Paul and try one more time, we are making his memory a blessing. If, when we need to adapt or be resilient, we're inspired by Paul, we will be making his memory a blessing. Paul Schroeder, in his Hebrew name, Peretz ben Avraham Vasara, is a good name. May it always be remembered for blessing. We remember him as well as those who mark the anniversary of their yahrzeit. Bessie Wasserman, the mother of Ken Wasserman. Hyman Rabinowitz, the grandfather of Marcia Andrus. Edwin Lastman, the husband of Janet Lastman. A. Hermine Gordon, the mother of Marty Seifert. Howard Gittleman, the brother of Alan Gittleman. Julia Knobb, the aunt of Sally Myers Goodman. Elsie Luria, the mother of Ed Luria. Remember Mickey Glazer, the dear friend of Marty and Stella Seifert. Louis Teller, the father of Barbara Gordon. Samuel N. Gordon, the father of Nancy Gordon. Remember David Scott, the father of Judith Scott. Remember Helen Kaplan, the mother of Carol Schulman, and Rose Baumstein, the grandmother of Barbara Dworsky, and Sir Barry Simons, the husband of Sue Simons. Now is the time for you to add any other names. You can either say them or you can type them in as a message. Are there any names that I can say up? We're going to rise now for Kaddish, face towards the east.